When we consider the word magic, it conjures up different images for different people. So part of what I want to do in this course, the 7 dimensions of magic, is define or at least describe what it is that I mean by the word. And I spell it in this context with a K on the end, and this is becoming traditional as a way to distinguish it from the use of the word for the stage conjurer, the entertainer. So we're talking about the real deal here. And it's not weird or spooky or bad or, which is kind of a reputation that it tends to get. It can be all of those things, but it doesn't have to be. And there isn't a substantive difference between the word magic and the word prayer. Not really. And we could start there. What is prayer? Well, it's getting into a certain state of sacredness and saying something, typically, or at least thinking something clearly, announcing to the world intention, or at least hope, affirmation, or something like that. So when we're talking magic, we're talking about 2 things. Creating a state of being within oneself and extending that state into the immediate environment. In other words, creating an atmosphere. This is a requirement. You can't practice magic without doing that. And you have to learn how to get into that state at will. And you can use tools to help you get into that state. And a big part of what we're studying is the study of tools, methods, methodology by which we get into that sacred state of being. And some would say that that state of being that we get into is also reached by mystics. And I agree. A mystic is somebody who really gets into that sacred state of being, a high awareness of the presence of God. Doesn't necessarily do anything with that. Just likes to get into the state and sees that as a worthwhile endeavor for its own sake, which I think also that it is. When we move beyond that into intentionality, the use of will and creative imagination to impress upon that field of special sacredness that the mystic gets into, when we impress upon that field our intention imaginatively, then we're operating in the field of magic. It requires a certain amount of discipline to do this safely. What we're talking about is the ability to create results in the world without necessarily doing the work and arranging the people and the resources, the money and so on. We just call something into being on the level of mind. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to the realm of mind, the astral plane. And in that realm, there are mischievous creatures, some worse than mischievous as well. And they can feel the juice of magic. The magic, if it's done at all, let alone done properly, creates a charismatic magnetism, juice, and that's wanted by beings on different planes even than the physical. But even on the physical plane, you're still in some danger. Magic is not an acceptable hobby or activity. It's there is prejudice, and there are people who get into trouble. You get scapegoated if you make too big a deal of this. And yet we have to be honest and authentic about what we are and what we're doing. So there's a thin line, shall we say, between being honest that you are practicing magic and making too big a deal of it so that you tell the wrong people. Now, the protection that I'm talking about is important, and we'll start there because it seems like a foolish thing to endeavor anything which is not in your control. And when we're entering the field of magic, you're not safe unless you're in control. So we have to make sure that everything we do according to our ability to hold the energy. And that phrase, hold the energy, is used often. What it means is that if you're a leader of a group, then the group is obedient to your decisions. If you're in a special situation that you've conjured up by dint of your ability to pull down magnetism and apply it, then all within your field of influence has to be monitored and corrected if it's starting to go wrong. So if within a group of people, and very often magic is practiced within a group, if someone within the group starts to behave in a way which is inconsistent with our purposes, then we stop that. And this is not a gentle exercise necessarily, doesn't require courtesy necessarily. You can do that if that's your choice. What it requires is strength. You say, no, you can't do that. You will leave this group if you continue. You have to have that level of certainty about what you're doing if you're doing it within a group. If you're doing it alone, then just extend that feeling of like, this is my space, it will not get intruded upon. And that feeling itself is the boundary necessary to keep yourself safe. To create that feeling, we use all manner of different methods, one of which is being in a quiet space which is not going to get invaded. You turn your telephone off. You tell people you're out. You make it really clear that you don't want to be interrupted. You do it at times of day which are safe, and so on. You conjure up the beginnings of the atmosphere using whatever suits you best. And these often include devices such as lighting candles and burning incense and intoning a sacred sound. So we use certain devices to create the space. And we use certain tools to move us into a heightened state of intuition and sensitivity and recognition of an aspect of our being which is non-physical but is real and can be called up whenever we choose. And so this might be the use of tarot cards or crystals or guided journey pathworks, or animals, paranormals, or various kind of tokens of this kind, sigils, glyphs, language, mantric languages, the use of water, holy water to purify situations, the use of such things as sacred knives or wands or staffs. There's all manner of things that you kind of find awaken within you a sense of a magical atmosphere. And the more you use them with sacredness, the more you empower them. And if you make an object sacred, then you must only use it for that sacred purpose, or it's disempowered. So we've got all these kind of tricks of the trade that we need to use, and we need to understand, and we need to practice. And we need to, above all else, keep a clear mind. What we're doing, why we're doing it, who we're doing it with, where we're doing it, and so on. We need to be very clear about all of this. And if you move into this realm of study and practice of magic without already being on top of your life, in control of your situation, then it's not a good idea. You have to be aware that getting capable in the normal world of events, that's the beginning, that's the practice, that's the entry qualification. So if your life is in a mess, well then don't practice magic. Sort your life out first. Only when your life is sorted out, in other words, you're not sort of embarrassed by being in debt, or you're not going through intense emotional process in relationship, or you're not feeling resentful towards your boss or anyone else. And if you haven't got, these kind of things, then deal with that first. Magic is not instead of dealing with life. It's what to do after you've actually got on top of it all, the normal life. It's the springboard. Then you use magic to take you to the next level of consciousness. So magic is the demonstration of having moved beyond normal consciousness of excellence to the next level, super normal consciousness, where you can see more, you know more, you understand more, and you can actually create the atmosphere necessary to project your will into the world and cause results, cause effects. And there are certain aspects of magic, like shamanic magic is mostly to do with healing and power animals. There's the magic of spell making, which very often has to do with money and relationship and so on. There are different kind of branches of magic. And we will be looking at these in more depth throughout this course of videos.